Hi everyone, my name is Tania Diggory. I'm the founder and director of Karma, a training organisation empowering entrepreneurs, freelancers and business teams to nurture good mental health and well-being. I'm delighted today to be joined by the lovely Besma Whayeb, an award-winning blogger, ethical influencer and sustainability advocate. And so I'm no doubt at all that we're going to learn so much from Besma today on how to create a more sustainable and kinder world. Thank you so much for joining me today, Besma.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Great. So, as you said before, I focus on sustainability in my work and my writing. I think that starts with when I set up my blog in 2014. So, I write a blog called Curiously Conscious. It's all about finding more sustainable and kinder ways to look after yourself, other people, and the planet. I've been documenting, changes that I've been making in my life over the last 6 years over on that platform, and what started as a hobby has now become what started as a hobby has now become my full-time profession. So I'm delighted to see that both the interest in sustainability has grown, but also, with my work, that I'm able to share interesting new ways of being more environmentally friendly and to an audience who is genuinely engaged and wants to know more. Alongside Curiously Conscious, I also run a platform called Ethical Influencers. The main aim is to connect other people, such as myself, bloggers, influencers, creatives, photographers, journalists, whoever, all together to share each other's content, to raise our voices as a collective. And we're now at just over 800 members in 42 different countries around the world. So it's a real delight to have created a place of belonging online and to also be sharing ways to be more sustainable and how we can do that in a positive and, feel good way as well. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, that's so inspiring. And how amazing to be at that level now with your membership as well and reaching people from all over the world. You must be very proud.
I mean, it's delightful. I have to say though, the community kind of runs itself, and it's really a joy to kind of check in with them and see different pieces of content coming out, different ways that people are approaching sustainability. And obviously it really changes depending on where the person's located, their experience and their worldview, and the importance factors that change depending on where you are in the world and who you are and your own personality and just things like that. So it's great to have them all coming together and sharing those in a way where we all then learn and grow as people.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, and all the best. I mean, it's just, incredible to see how this is developing.
Thank
And,
you.
with your experience within the sustainability space, within ethical living, I mean, there's so many ways that people can get involved nowadays within, influencing climate change, with being a sustainability advocate, with looking at kinder ways to live, more eco-friendly ways to live. So with all these avenues, what inspired you to choose writing and having that as your outlet?
Oh, that's a great question. And I don't think anybody's ever asked me, but I think writing has always seemed something that has been, quite personal to me and something that has helped me channel my creativity and just generally take a load off, take some stress off, put something down on paper. Growing up, I was never one for having a diary. I couldn't keep up with doing something daily, but I did start writing on a personal journal and would write stories and things that today I would never show anyone, I would never publish, I would never put out there, but it's something that I really liked kind of getting down to and finding a way to relax and chill. In the days of MySpace, which is kind of my teenage years, I also started a blog and was connecting with friends and different people who were part of that online community through a blog. And I just found so much joy in being able to go online and write something out, whether it's, a thought or an idea that I had that day, or a film that I'd seen and been able to review it, and channel that into a space where it was all documented and other people could have a look or have a read, and I could go back and have a look and kind of see different things and different memories all put in there. Kind of cut to after that, I went to university and I started writing a blog all about music and film, and basically just highlighting lots of different smaller creatives who I loved their work and I wanted other people to hear about. And while I didn't have a giant audience, it was just nice to have that kind of a side where I could talk about things and channel some creativity again into writing. I went on to join the university's magazine and become the editor for that as well. So I got some experience in managing a team of writers and understanding, how to improve my writing just generally. And then, yeah, 2014, I lived in Paris for a year as part of my degree. And I think it was a combination of culture shock and me just going, okay, I'm used to kind of cooking up the pizzas that you get in cellophane wrap and shoving it in the oven. And then I was exposed to, great French agriculture, their seasonality with their food and how much care they have with their food. So it became a different blog again. I started the new blog, I started Curiously Conscious and continued with that. And fortunately, it grew and it became something that today I'm still intrigued as to how I can be a kinder human, how I can look after the environment and the planet, and being able to write these posts in now slightly more regimented way. But before, it used to be quite ad hoc. Whenever I had a new discovery, I'd want to put it on there. Whenever I had a new idea, I'd put it on there, and I would get a response from a community online. It became a real joy to still have that and look back over a catalogue of entries. So writing has always been a real passion, and it's nice to also now see the people enjoy my writing and benefit from that too.
Absolutely. And I love to see how Curiously Conscious has evolved as well. I know in the years that we've known each other, I've seen it flourish from such a personal perspective as well. That's one of the things I really love about it, and how you've often like drawn sketches for your own blogs. You also take images, that original photography, and
Yep.
share it on there. And it's really evolved in terms of the fashion space, especially, isn't it? In terms of sustainable fashion, and you model your own pictures as well, don't you?
I do indeed. So I think sustainable fashion definitely took hold for me, I would say maybe 2-3 years ago. When I first started Curiously Conscious, it was very much focused on food, diet, and understanding, French style cooking. So I was documenting a lot of that. And then I started to question, where does my fashion come from? Some of the materials that we wear today, are from the nature. They're whether you use cotton, whether you're wearing linen, these items are grown. But again, what's the process? Do we know where they're grown? Do we know how they're grown and the impact on the environment and the farmers? And are they using pesticides? And that became a real focus for me as well. So I think there is that innate connection between food and fashion, and that's why I kind of steered in that direction now, because fashion is so personal and people express themselves through it, and it becomes again another creative outlet for us. So I'm really enjoying kind of focusing on the fashion space. And in fact, this year I was put in the top 10 UK fashion blogs by Whayeb, who runs the UK Blog Awards. So it's nice to be recognised as an influencer in the fashion space as well, even though I'm always focusing on sustainability and basically living in a way which is kinder and wearing clothes which are kinder to planet and people too.
Absolutely. And ever so modest, you've actually won multiple awards, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a joy basically to receive those awards. So I've received top green blog in the last 3 years running from the same organisation who runs the UK Blog Awards. It's delightful to know that other people are reading and enjoying my work. But in all honesty, it's the same with the community that I run. I really care about each person's individual voice and understanding their approach to sustainability. And with blogging, there comes two sides of it that I see. So one is the content and what you're creating and putting out and your personal voice, and the other side is the actual way of writing and improving your writing to a standard which will enable you to be found online, which will improve your SEO, which just gives your blogs better structure. And I hope to share more of that when we are running our digital storytelling work, Dennis and myself, for the Good Mental Health Festival. So yeah, I'll be sharing both sides then.
Amazing. That's wonderful. And, I think it's just so, it's powerful to see an example of just how much, a vision and an idea can evolve and grow. And, it's all about constant learning and development, really, isn't it?
That's exactly it. I mean, that's life. And I think we're all learning as we go, no matter what life stage you're at, and what your interests are. As I've said, I've started writing and it was just for myself personally. Then I was focusing on music and film and entertainment. I was writing a general university magazine, and now it's sustainability. And I think with sustainability, it's less of a trend and it's something that will be running through all of our lives, no matter whether you're, an eco expert or you just hear about it on the news or you see different things happening with the products that you purchase. But for me, sustainability, because it has become such an important part of my life, and then also there's been so much development over the years of living in a more sustainable way, manufacturers producing more sustainable products, and regulation coming in from governments and different regulatory bodies around protecting the environment and people. I don't think curiosity consciousness is going to run out of steam for a long time yet. We've got
No.
more to document.
Absolutely. Long may it continue, and all the best with all the amazing work that you're doing, Besma. So on that point about sustainability, I know that you're very passionate about making sustainability intersectional. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
That's right. So this is something that I've kind of involved with my content this year more than ever. I wouldn't say that I'm an intersectionality expert, and there are brilliant people who I'd be happy to point anyone in the direction of if they're looking to know more. But at a kind of a base level, intersectionality is understanding that every issue is multi-layered. So it's not just saying, okay, we care about the environment and therefore we only look for natural products. Might be a great start for you, but you also need to consider the people who are harvesting those natural products, who are getting those to your door, who are then taking those away when you throw them away or you recycle them. It's with intersectionality this year, I think a lot of what inspired me was the Black Lives Matter movement, and understanding that there are different experiences that people are having on a day-to-day basis, and negative experiences, and we're still part of that, and it's a systemic issue rather than it being something that you and I can say we're anti-racist, and I think most people can say they're anti-racist, but we still live in structures that encourage the kind of marginalization of different peoples. For fashion, I tend to focus on the exploitation of people in supply chains. So a big piece of work that I've done this year was focusing on fast fashion and fast fashion retailers. I documented over 70 and looked into each one of their corporate documents, looked at their company structures, different documentation, which gets a little nerdy and it took a long time to do, but you can start to realize how a lot of these businesses are headed up in the West and started in the West and are making profit for those people, and instead they're exploiting people in the global South who, majority of garment workers are women and women of color. So we need to start seeing kind of that balance redressed and support businesses and fashion manufacturers who genuinely care about their people and care about the planet and care about their consumer too. We want to see this intersectionality go through everything. So I'm really trying to show more of that in my work and evolve my content to also look at the inclusivity of people and generally just be a better human, as we all wish to be as we move forward in life.
Absolutely. Putting people before profit, right?
Exactly it. That's what we need.
Yeah, for sure. And that is a phenomenal blog that you put together. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it and found it so revealing as well. I mean, anyone who goes and reads that blog, I really encourage that you do. Just remind us of the title of it, Besma.
Yeah, if you look for it, it's 70 plus fast fashion brands and reasons to avoid them. You can also pretty much Google any brand and say, are they fast fashion? And hopefully my post on that specific brand will pop up. So have a look, discover more about the brands that you're loyal to. And in any case, if you still wish to purchase products from them, there's certain brands whose designs I love. Try going secondhand, try looking on places like Depop or eBay, and just finding a quick fix that way rather than supporting them and giving that demand to them.
And that's so multi-layered as well, like going secondhand when you can, not only supporting people, or local people to you, but also, being kinder to the planet, because then we're not just repurposing, we're repurposing, but we're not just using new products that we don't necessarily need, and we can just keep repurposing all the products.
We want to have that circularity with our fashion and with pretty much every other industry, but fashion's an easy one to look at because, recycling of clothes and buying things from vintage stores or charity shops has been happening for a long time now. We haven't just invented that, the wheel has been turning for a long time. But I'm loving that more people are jumping on that bandwagon and enjoying buying secondhand, selling secondhand, creating that circularity rather than sending things to landfill or buying firsthand when it comes from an unethical place. So yeah, it's a quick fix and it's enjoyable too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. And what about people who may be listening to this and think, I really want to make my difference, and I want to just, shop ethically, and I want to shop with sustainable brands. But there might be some people who think that they can't actually afford that or see it as a luxury because, there tends to be a bit more of a markup on prices with, more ethical fashion brands, right? Because they're using more ethical sources, etc., and resources. So what would you say for people who are struggling with that?
Yeah, it was definitely a struggle for me when I first started as well. And I think there's two things you can really do to address that. The first is understand who you are, what your style is, kind of get to know what fits you, what fits your body shape, what makes you feel confident when you're walking out in your clothes. Because getting to know yourself means that you're going to be spending less on impulse purchases, on things that might not fit and things that will make you feel disappointed. Again, with that, also work out what your budget is. So for me, I kind of grew up in a household where we couldn't afford lots of things all the time. And I was taught the practice of saving money for things that I'd noticed in the shops before and then had to go back and purchase once I had that money. We have to go back to that. And with fast fashion, a lot of it plays on the idea of you see it on your phone screen, on your Instagram, wherever, you can buy it straight there because it's so cheap. You don't realize you're actually tapping into a really unethical supply chain and supporting something which is exploiting a lot of people. So moving away, change your own behavior to looking at buying clothes as an investment and things that will really genuinely suit you and serve you and that you want to keep in your wardrobe and wear forever or as long as you can. And the second thing, I think, with sustainable fashion, we still need to ask brands to look at their pricing to make things more accessible. Sometimes that's not possible just because they are paying more to the farmers, to the garment workers, to their supply chains to make sure that they are more environmentally friendly and more ethical. But what you could do as well is look to either purchasing secondhand, as I said before, because they're cheaper in that sense, or going for, the occasional purchase. So for myself, I would say, I used to shop and buy, say, 2-3 items a month. I've now kind of moved that down to 1 item a month, and it will normally be through a secondhand platform. But the more that we support these sustainable brands, the more demand they see, the more they can also invest in larger collections, larger size ranges, and also just change the way they're providing clothing so they benefit from economies of scale and they can reduce their prices too. So there's a balance going on, and I think right now it's quite hard to justify buying things that are over £100 a pop each time. There's lots of other ways of accessing fashion. I'm actually looking at fashion rental at the moment, so I'm trying out a couple of different services as to what it's like to rent your clothes rather than buy them, and whether that's a more sustainable option again, because there's so many people who have clothing that just sits in their wardrobe. I think the statistic in London is 27% of our wardrobes just don't get worn. So
wow, really?
I think we all have that one item which has still got the tags on in the back of the wardrobe that we feel really guilty about because we bought it and we thought we would wear it and then we just didn't, or there was some reason that we didn't like it anymore or it didn't fit right. I also run a clothes swap. We haven't been able to do it this year, but clothes swapping is another option. You could just swap clothes with your friends, your family, whoever. There are online swapping applications and websites that you can also tap into. So look at different ways of accessing fashion, supporting sustainable fashion, and also just enjoy it. Make it something personal to you. Work out your style, and then I think you'll feel more satisfied and more confident going forwards too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point about understanding your style, because how much effort do we really put into that, and what we wear can dictate our mood on some days, especially with colors. Like colors can be very meaningful for people, and how things fit and complement your body shape, I think is so important. So thank you for raising that point as well.
Pleasure.
Yeah, and it's it's so interesting what you're saying about 27% of our cupboards just full of stuff we don't even wear. And I'm sure so many people, and myself included, can identify with that. And I think I've gotten a bit better at this over time, but like when you're a sentimental soul like me, I find it very difficult to let go of things because of the sentimental value in them as well. And like, oh, I remember when I wore this when I was like 15 years old, and it's like, am I really going to be wearing it now, or even younger? And it's like, it's because of the memory that's associated with it that can be difficult to let go. So that's been a process I've kind of worked on over previous years. But do you find that sometimes as well, like that can be a difficult thing for people to let go of?
Yeah, I think that sentimentality around clothes is kind of commonplace. I see it within my own family. You know, my grandma has those clothes that she wore to people's weddings, or she has those connections. My mum, the same. She has all of the clothes that she wore when she was working in the office in the 70s and 80s. And
Mhm.
you go back and, you know, I love looking through both of their wardrobes, but you see the big shoulder pads and you think you're probably not going to wear that nowadays. It's in the wardrobe for sentimental reasons. And I understand that. I have to say, I'm not the most sentimental person in the world, so I'm a little bit more cutthroat than I think either my mum or my grandma is with my wardrobe. But perhaps that's just my extra investment in kind of fashion and sustainable fashion. I feel like if I'm not getting the most out of it, I'll either sell it or donate it, or swap it. So I have less of a connection with that. But I think there has to be this understanding, and actually, you know, sometimes that sentimentality is a good thing. So keep hold of, you know, one or two items that really do make you feel that personal connection or bring back certain memories. I have memory boxes where I have little artifacts and things that, you know, ticket stubs from the cinema or wherever it is with certain people, so that I remember those things. And the same can be with our clothes.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you aren't making the most out of them and you'd like to make a small bit of money, or you think that somebody else could benefit from wearing an item, go ahead and access that circularity side of the fashion, because it's great. And, you know, it's nice. I've literally sold 2 items this morning on Depop, so I'm
There you
in a
go.
great mood.
Oh, brilliant. So give us a tip, Besma, then. So if you're somebody that really struggles to let go from a sentimental value, whether it's something you wore at an event or at a certain time in your life, and you find it a struggle to let go of that, what one thing could you say to yourself or to remind yourself of, like a question you could ask yourself perhaps to look at whether it's time to let it go?
Sure. I think, as much as, you know, she caught stick, Marie Kondo's question of whether it brings you joy is always a great one to ask. And especially with these items that make you feel sentimental, there is that other side which also makes you feel guilty for keeping hold of it, which makes you feel kind of like, you know, you should be wearing it and you're not. That clothes are so personal and so emotional for a lot of us. So understanding, you know, how you feel about something, and if it brings you absolute joy and you just want to have it there, or you want to have it, you could even have it framed and hung on your wall, or do something with it where you are making the most out of it. 100% keep it. And I'm not asking you to throw out everything you've got, but if you think that, you know, this item has either had its day or you're not going to wear it and it does make you feel a certain way when it's hanging in your wardrobe not getting any wear, consider whether you could replace that with something that does bring you joy instead. And something, maybe it's an item that you've had your eye on for a long time, and maybe through selling a couple of items you'll be able to purchase. As I said before, saving up and then investing in certain pieces is something that I like to do, and it definitely brings me more joy than holding on to items that either no longer fit me. And even on that basis, you know, our bodies change over time. If something doesn't fit you anymore, if you don't want to throw it out and you do want to wear it, get it altered, go and have it changed. You can also customize it. There's so many ways you can play around with fashion. So find a way to make it bring you joy, whether it is to give it to somebody else who will enjoy wearing it, to change it, or to sell and buy something else that makes you feel that way. There's ways that you can play around. So enjoy that side of fashion too.
Great tips. Thank you very much, Besma, for that. So when we're thinking of the wider spectrum of sustainability issues, whether it's, you know, how we're being kinder to the planet, you know, whether it's through fashion, what you were just talking about, whether it's through the climate change crisis that we're facing, there's so much going on, and it definitely is an ongoing process of trying to inspire behavioral change that will better the planet, right, and people. So for you, what do you notice that's really positive at the moment? Because I think we hear and read so many articles and news stories about the crisis that we're in, and there is a crisis, but what's going really well? You know, what have you noticed that where we've really made progress and we're really moving forward?
Lovely question, because I think there is a lot of negativity that comes with looking at the climate crisis and can cause that eco anxiety or eco grief even. The one thing that really inspires me is seeing how many people are now connecting with each other online over these issues. They're becoming digital activists. They're writing about things on their, whether it's their Instagram, their own blogs, or just sharing things on Twitter or wherever, Facebook. and highlighting these issues and sharing ways to also make positive change. So signing petitions or voting in the elections and understanding sustainable policies and environmental policies that are going through. There is a growing awareness and a growing community of people who care about the environment, who are connecting online and inspiring each other. I think with ethical influencers, that taps into that somewhat. But even with my blog and going through this year, 2020 has been a difficult year for a lot of people, and myself included. And I was really surprised to see when lockdown happened in London, we had March closed everything off, and I saw my readership drop off, and I immediately recognized that people have more important things to be focusing on than sustainability. But surprisingly, then when April and May started coming through, my readership doubled because more people were going online and looking up how to be more sustainable because they had this extra time. They were now considering how they can improve the processes and things that they potentially might not have been able to do prior to lockdown and change happening in their lives. So as much as, the changes this year and climate crisis generally can cause those feelings of anxiety and negativity, there is a real sense of belonging and collective change happening and activism, that people are raising their voices together and making this change and calling for better. So I think we need to continue with that. And as much as you've got these inspiring figures like David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg saying and doing and telling governments and businesses how they need to change, we as people can also do that and influence the places we work for and the businesses we support and the communities that we are part of. So I really take a lot of solace from that and see that as a positive step, and hopefully that continues to grow and we make a real positive change happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone listening to this and thinking, oh, there's so much that I want to do, and it can sometimes create a bit of overwhelm. You think all of these things going on, all these issues happening, and you want to do your part. What would you say is one step to take today to make a difference?
Yeah, I think if you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, if you look at the climate crisis or, even the pandemic at this stage, and it does make you feel, either negative emotions or something in yourself which doesn't sit right, recognize what you can and what you can't control, because there are so many things that we are faced with, and especially put to us with news and media, that feel personal and feel like we are not good enough, we're not doing enough, and we need to suffer for these things. And instead recognize that so much of it is out of our control. But what is in our control is, the food that we eat or the brands that we buy from. We also have the control of being citizens and being members of our communities, and whether you can knock on other people's doors and support them in purchasing goods for them, which was what we were doing at the start of lockdown, and looking after those local people, whether it's donating to charity and supporting the work that they're doing and going out into other areas that really deserve that support and help. There's so many ways we can channel that feeling and find a more positive way to at least experience and feel like we're taking part in supporting a better planet and a better community of people around the world. It's hard to rationalize when it feels so big, but that's definitely been the process that I've taken, and it helps me to feel more comfortable and confident in my day-to-day life, and know that I'm making a positive change and channeling things in a positive way and doing as much as I can. So yeah, take that and know that you have power.
You have power. I love that message. Absolutely. And there really is something to be said for the fact that if you imagine every single person in the world, or even just in your country or in your area, making the difference that you just said about being conscious about the small things that you do on a daily basis, if everybody did that, that would make a humongous difference overall, wouldn't it?
Completely. And I know for so many people as well, sustainability is something they can't access or be part of every day. We have full-time jobs, we have people who work 2 jobs, we have people who have their families and have people they're caring for. And for those people, it isn't something they can be an activist and commit all of their time and, become a charity worker. Understood. And I think that's where, like myself and for other people in this space, if we can communicate on their behalf, if we can vote, if we can sign petitions, if we can speak to our political representatives and find ways of at least saying this is how we feel as a collective and this is what we need changed, there's definitely got to be that sense of, community, and we are all inspiring that change. And we've seen it happen with, in the UK, we've got the 5p bag charge, we've had microbeads banned, we're having cotton buds, the plastic stems banned. There's so many things that are happening very slowly and incrementally, but we can now call for even more change. We want to see more renewable energy. We want to have people switch your bank account to a place which doesn't support fossil fuels or investment in fracking and things like that. There's so many small ways we can change these things as consumers and vote from either within our wallets or with our voices or actually voting. So yeah, we need to act on behalf of everybody else as well.
Absolutely. And, I think it's also important for all of us to keep the perspective of the fact that there is so much information being shared, uploaded every single day, and it can be overwhelming even to just be paying attention to so many multiple different news outlets. So there's something to be said, isn't there, for really being conscious about which news channels you're focusing on and where you're deriving your sources from. And you shared today, Besma, so many positive bits of news with us that we can take away. And just in everything that you're saying now, it really does bring home the message that we've come a long way. Like, there's still a long way to go, but we've definitely come a long way in terms of behavior change and what we're doing differently, as a society as a whole. So are there any news outlets that you'd recommend for people to focus on and be more conscious about where they're putting their energy and where they're getting their news sources from?
So yes, I would say so. I think the first step
Seriously conscious, obviously.
I mean, yeah, I'm not too much self-promotion today.
I'll do that for you.
I think, yeah, that's always a good one, to follow people who inspire you, who bring you joy when you are, engaging with social media or logging on online. For news generally, I tend to limit how much news I look at every day, just because it can become quite overwhelming. And when you start seeing more and more negativity, it becomes, again, you have that anxiety as to what can I do to make things better? I feel like I don't have any control. So for me, I tend to focus on a number of more environmental outlets. I receive the Greenhouse News newsletter, and that's always a great one to have in the morning, which summarizes different things that are going on in different sectors. And that can be lifestyle and fashion if you want it to be, or that can be, headline news and places which they've summarized in there. I look at The Guardian a lot, just because they tend to have slightly less biased media and focus on environmental studies and news that's come out in that way, and that always gives me a kind of a grounding and understanding of something. But I also tend to focus on social media generally. I look at Twitter, I look at Instagram, and as much as they can feel like echo chambers, if you're following the right people, you can also see different things happening and waves of change happening across those, and feel inspired by that and inspired by the voices who you personally want to follow and hear from, rather than news which can become overwhelming and become a problem. So yeah, a mix.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Besma. Leaving on a really positive note, before we wrap up, please do let us know how our listeners can continue to follow you. Have you got anything coming up at the moment that you'd like to share? Please share what's going on for you right now.
Sure. So as much as, as I said, I'm trialing fashion rental at the moment, and we'll be writing about that. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to the Good Mental Health Festival, and I think that's a big date in my calendar coming up. So please get in touch and keep an eye. 9th of October, isn't it? So we'll see you there. For following me personally, you can follow Curiously Conscious at curiouslyconscious.com. On social media, I'm at Besma CC, that's BESMACC, and Ethical Influencers is at Ethical Influencers or ethicalinfluencers.co.uk. So yeah, they're the places you'll find me, and obviously I'll see everybody there on the 9th of October. I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Besma, for your time today, for sharing your expertise with us. I've learned so much from you. I always learn so much, and no doubt that you've given so much for our listeners to think about as well and be inspired by. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, and look forward to connecting with you soon. Please do check out Besma and all the incredible work that she's doing, and show your support, and we can all make small steps every day to make a big difference in our lives and for the people and for the planet. So thank you very much.